My topic is another decision to make. Y'all can have a seat. My subtopic is, what can I do to be a better me for them? Another decision to make. So I've had my life planned out up to the age of 25. Why 25? I don't know. I just thought that's when you were grown. So I had it planned out up to that point. It was very basic, but it was a plan nonetheless, and it looked like this. I was going to graduate from high school. I was going to go to college. I was going to graduate from college. I was going to get a job, get married, get a house, and have kids. After that, I was going to live and do life. That was my plan. And for a while, it was working. Like, I was in there. I graduated. I went off to college. And my parents did not have any influence in the decisions I made. It was a given that I was going, but they didn't like sway me one way or the other. It was just my decision to make. I knew that I was going. That was a given. But where I went, what it looked like, they left that up to me. So I went off to college. Initially, I wanted to be an FBI detective, y'all. To this day, low-key, like, it's still there. I saw it, like, all in my head, like the badge, the gun. But deep down, I wanted to be able to help families. Like, if something drastic happened, I wanted to figure it all out and give them some closure. So that's what I really wanted to do. I get to do it now in a different way, but that was initially my plan, to be a detective. So anyway. So I graduated from UNCW at 20, got married a year after college, and then, like, somewhere our plans got sidetracked. And I'm saying our, but they were really mine. We were here, Zay was playing. We moved to Raleigh after we got married, and I was like, yes, like, I'm out of here. Because this was closer to my hometown. I'm from Whiteville. So I was like, oh, we're in Raleigh, like we're in a big city now. We were coming back every weekend. Then Reverend Wiley died. Next thing I know, Pastor Campbell came. And then Zay and Pastor Campbell get to talking, and I don't know what happened. And then Zay said something about coming back to Wilmington. And I was like, I ain't going. And y'all, I meant that thing. Like, I wasn't coming. Like, I had made it to Raleigh. I wasn't coming. And Raleigh was closer to my sister. It was closer to his family. It was perfect. Like, we didn't have anything in Wilmington. So, next thing I know, I'm coming back to Wilmington. And keep in mind, we're 2 years in. So, I'm still trying to figure out this marriage thing. We both will agree and say our first year was horrible. It was probably because of me. I had a lot of independent, I don't really need you. I mean, we here, but I don't need you type mentality. So there was a lot of work that I needed to do on me. However, by year 2, I still didn't have it all together. Like, I was still trying to navigate this thing. So we're back in Wilmington now. For a little while, I was still working in Raleigh and just coming to Wilmington on the weekends and then going back to work. So we're trying to navigate this thing. Next thing I know, I'm pregnant. And I'm like, how did that happen? I mean, I know how it happened, but how did that happen? Because, y'all, I had already made decisions in my life, and this was not a part of my plan. My plan was to get the house and then have the children, right? So I was messed up. I remember one day we all went to Perkins, and they were making like little comments to me, and I was just like, whatever, like, I ain't saying nothing. And I ended up saying, I'm pregnant. They're like, woo! And I'm over here like confused. I'm devastated. I'm like, I don't know what y'all cheering for. Like, it just went through all of the decisions and thoughts that I have to now start making. It was almost like God was with me with the plan that I had. And then all of a sudden he was like, okay, just kidding. Like, I was with you, but I want you to do this. And truthfully, had I not been pregnant, who knows what the other 18 years, or now 19, because we've been married for 21. So who knows what the other 19 years of my life would have looked like. So there was a reason that I got pregnant when I did. I might have been 1 foot in, 1 foot out of even staying where I was. So God knew just what he was doing in that moment. So now I'm pregnant, and I got to start thinking about all the stuff, like daycare, diapers, if I'm nursing. Now I got to choose a doctor for this part. Like, so many thoughts, right? On top of that, I'm still adjusting to this married life. Like, right now, our little ups and downs are like this, right? They're like little ripples. Before, they were like, we're going deep down. And, oh, it's great now. Oh, no, I'm over this, right? So now we just kind of rolling. So I was dealing with all of that stuff in the midst of now being pregnant, and I wasn't planning on it. Now, the other two were planning, like, yep, let's do this. Isaiah was like, oh, what? Like, hold up. So I'm at a place where I'm just lost, confused. I'm not sure what to do, which way to go, and I'm at a crossroad. Right? You see this? Unsure, unclear, disoriented. Y'all, it threw me so bad. I felt like I was a child who just made a horrible mistake. I know I had been married for 2 years, but it wasn't part of my plan, right? Like, I made decisions, and this wasn't one of them, right? So today I want to talk about women I believe were at a point where they had to make some decisions, initially having no clue what was going to happen next. But as a mother, we're always having to make decisions, right? And then this one is just another decision to make. So let's think about just this morning. We ain't even got to go all week with the decisions let's just talk about this morning. First, I got to even decide I'm coming to church, right? Because this could be a day for me to rest, right? So that's the first decision. It ain't even involving nobody else. It's just mine, okay? So now I decided to come. I got to figure out what time I'm going to get up to make sure everybody else get up, right? That's another decision. I got to figure out what I'm wearing. I got to make sure everybody else got something clean so they got something to put on too, right? So we have to decide am I cooking breakfast this morning? Do we have enough money to grab something to eat? Is everybody just going to go hungry until lunch? Like, what? Decisions to make. In the meantime, I got kids calling me. Personally, this morning we had a rental for the side-by-side. We thought Isaiah was going to do it. He had to be at the baseball field. So now Sanaya got to do it. She got an attitude because she ain't never had to do it. All these decisions, right? Then she gets there. The UTV ain't working. Like, now she calling me. I'm trying to read. Like, just let me read. She's calling me. We got all these decisions. I got to decide, am I going to answer her phone call or let her figure it out, all right? So this is just this morning. I have to figure out, is this important right now? Can I hold off on that? We got decisions on top of decisions. Some are more pressing than others, but either way, it's another decision we got to make, right? Any mothers, like, good thing for Zay, because sometimes I be like, go ask your daddy. And they be like, he told me to ask you. I be like, wait a minute. Like, I don't want to make no more decisions, right? Okay. So when we look at 1 Kings, here's like a cliff note of what we're going to be talking about. David was a king of Israel. He was old. He had appointed his son Solomon to be the king, and Solomon was young. He says that he was just like a little child. He might have been around 20 to 25 years old. And basically he said, I don't know how to do this thing, right? These are your people. I'm a child. I don't know how to lead them. So God comes to him in a dream, and God says, like, what do you want? Solomon then asks for understanding, a heart to judge his people, that he may discern between good and evil. That's what he asked for. He could have asked for a long life, get rid of all my enemies, make sure I'm wealthy, make sure I ain't got to worry about nothing. But what he asked for was understanding, wisdom, and being able to discern. Right? So he wakes up from the dream, and now I feel like God was like, I'm going to give you this. Now here's your test. Oh, thank you. And here's your test. And not only did God give him the wisdom and the discernment, he gave him what he asked for, and what he didn't ask for. So be sure in your prayer that you're asking for the right thing, and maybe some of those other things will be added to you, right? All right. So we have these two women, and let me just read it for you so you'll know. Two women who were harlots came to the king. I'm at verse 16. And they stood before him. And one woman said, "Oh, my Lord, this woman and I dwell in the same house. I gave birth while she was in the house. Then it happened, the third day after I had given birth, that woman also gave birth. We were together. There was nobody in the house except us. And this woman's son died in the night because she laid on him." Just think about that, y'all. "So she arose in the middle of the night and took my son from my side and laid him in her bosom and the dead child in mine. And when I rose in the morning to nurse my son, there he was dead. But when I had examined him in the morning, indeed, he was not my son whom I had born. Then the other woman said, 'No, but the living one is my son and the dead one is yours.' And the first woman said, 'But the dead son, that's your son. The living one is mine.' They were talking to Solomon. And the king said, 'Y'all going back and forth? Y'all having this power struggle? I'll fix it. Bring me a sword.' So they brought him a sword before the king, and the king said, 'Divide the living child in two, and give half to one and half to the other.'" Could you imagine that? It's your living child. You having a power struggle with somebody, and the king is like, "Let's just divide them. Y'all can't figure it out. Y'all got your own stuff going on. Let's just divide them up." Then the woman whose son was living spoke to the king, for she yearned with compassion for her son. And she said, "Oh, my Lord, give her the living child and by no means kill him." But the other woman, still in her stuff, she was like, "Let him be neither mine nor yours. Divide him." So the king answered and said, "Give the first woman the living child, and by no means kill him, for she is his mother." Another decision to make. So a few facts. The women lived in the same house together. They weren't strangers. They were friends. They knew each other. I have to believe they were pregnant, and when one of them was having a morning sickness, the other one was bringing them the crackers and the ginger ale, the lemon heads, to help them get through that. They were not strangers to each other. I believe they went through the pregnancy together to help each other out. They were also harlots, which are prostitutes. But they were also mothers. So I'm choosing to address them as mothers because it doesn't matter what their background is or what situation they were currently in. They are still mothers. Whether she has the child or not, she is still a mother. They were both newly mothers. It doesn't say they had other children. There is no mention of other children. They both had boys, and they were 3 days apart. We know that there was a power struggle between the women, and the live one actually belonged to one of them. One mother was adamant about keeping her baby alive. The baby deserved to live, even if they weren't with me. But they still deserved to live. And the other mother was motivated by a desire to even the playing field. If I'm hurt and in pain, you're going to be too. If I got to be the one without my child, you're going to be without yours too. Ain't no way I can sit here and not have my child. Maybe because of something I did, and you just going to be over there kikiing with yours, right? Has anyone ever heard of the invisible suitcase? All right. It's often related to kids who've been in foster care, who've experienced trauma. It's a suitcase we carry around that no one sees, but it shows up in our actions. It shows up on how we treat others, how we treat ourselves, our everyday talk, how you see yourself. Right here, this lady's just walking. You see the guilt, the shame, stress, fear. It's how we carry this in our everyday going. I believe we're able to see the invisible suitcase that this mom was carrying. I can imagine the pain. I can imagine the pain she was in. But I know that it was so great she didn't want to see anybody else happy, even her friend. I call her roommate. I don't know what she was, but she was walking around with this invisible suitcase. My baby is dead. I don't have a baby. You ain't going to have yours either. I'm not where I want to be in life. I'm definitely not going to cheer you on with your successes. How you over there making it? And I'm over here struggling. I'm miserable, so I'll do whatever. I'll be spiteful, hate on you, so you can be miserable too. Proverbs says, wickedness loves company and leads others to sin, right? Misery loves company. We all say that. Sometimes we're in the misery, pulling the company. The Bible says in Ephesians 4:31, let all bitterness, wrath, anger, clamor, and evil speaking and malice be put away from you. So I started going through each one of those. Wrath is extreme anger. Anger, y'all, is a secondary emotion. There's always something underneath. It's a response. So you might be angry, but it's fueled by hurt or pain, disappointment, frustration, whatever it is. It's a secondary emotion. The mother decided, I'm going to go to great lengths to make sure that those around me are just as miserable as I am. The mother switched the baby in the middle of the night. She knew what she was doing. So I do believe she was walking around with her invisible suitcase. We were friends. We're living in the same house. We think all is well. In the meantime, I got all this stuff on me. You may not even see it, but it's trailing behind me. It'll show up when I talk to you. It'll show up when I got a situation to deal with, and now I got an attitude about it all. Keep in mind, I'm talking about another decision to make. So my first point is get rid of the weight. What's in your invisible suitcase? What are we carrying around? What's in you or on you or trailing behind you that's just too heavy and too much for you? Yeah, we still walk around thinking we good. What are you carrying around that is hindering you from making the best decisions for yourself, for your children, or the ones you love? My baggage and suitcase might look a little different than yours. So don't get caught up on what it looks like for the person down the aisle. For me, when I was 8 years old, my grandmother died, and my dad changed. He was the oldest of 10, and how he chose to deal with her death is through drinking. So here I am, 8. He has his own baggage that I know nothing about, but he's carrying it every single day. It showed up every single weekend through the fussing, through the fighting. He didn't really cuss when he was drunk whatsoever, but the fussing, the fighting, right? So he had his own bags to carry. Sometimes we're carrying weight that never belonged to us. It's not yours to carry, yet we're sitting here holding it, right? Somebody could be carrying the abuse they experienced when they were a child. We picking up bags because somebody's already shared this about the next person and now it's a burden on us. It's not ours to carry. It could be the stress of a job, getting laid off from a job. It could be the weight of losing a loved one, just as it is about this lady in the story, just as it was for my dad. Y'all know she was in pain. Like, think about it. It's just like if you were to get into a car accident and then one of your children were to pass. How much guilt are we going to carry around with that? For some or for me, I couldn't even share that my dad was a functioning alcoholic because it was shameful. And then one day I was like, it ain't mine. I ain't the one drunk. Right? So I'm walking around here struggling, not sharing and not telling people why I am how I am. But it's not mine to carry. The minute I started sharing, first I used to be like, my dad is, that might be why I don't cry, Coop. My dad is a functioning alcoholic, right? Weekends were hell. By the time I got through that stuff, this is just what it was. He was assistant principal. He had a master's degree. His mama died. He changed. Right? He didn't know how to cope. He didn't have the skills. Right? So here, we know the lady who had the dying, whose child was dead, was in pain. But we also know that pain cannot be measured. Sometimes you go to the doctor and they're like on a scale of 1 to 10. Right? But when we start talking about the heart and the pain, that can't be measured. It can only be felt. And that's why the Bible says, mourn with those who mourn. It doesn't say interrogate and see if it's valid enough for you to feel bad for them. It's not up to you to measure if the joy of someone is good enough for you to clap for them, right? If you're going to clap for them, then go ahead and clap for them. The Bible says to rejoice with those who rejoice and celebrate when they have joy. But if you're holding on to the weight, it's kind of hard for me to cheer for somebody else when I got all this on me. Right? It's kind of hard for me to say, oh, good job. I'm glad you got your baby over there. Meanwhile, mine is dead. Right? Sometimes we're carrying the weight simply because of the decisions that we have made. Maybe it's the lack of money or trying to figure out our money. It could be the weight from the stress of our dysfunctional families or consequences of our past decisions. Keep in mind that they were both prostitutes. We don't know how they got there. Typically, they come from slavery, but we don't know what happened for them to be in that situation. And there are times that you may have to adjust. Y'all see me like moving my hair and trying to get all this. It gets heavy. It's a burden. But most of it was never mine to carry. You may feel the effects of it, but you got to realize that don't mean it's always mine. And here's how we can get rid of the weight. If you're not careful, you build up a resistance to it. I got these bags, I can feel the weight. Pretty soon I'll start dressing it up, making sure it's matching my stuff. Right? I got it on me, pretty sure I'm going to make sure it's working with what I got. Right? The ideal, though, is to get rid of it. Everybody around us will see the effects of the weight. Your decisions begin to start looking like the weight that's wearing down on you. You can no longer realize it. Everything that you do and say, kind of like, what is going on with her? Everybody sees it but you, because you've built up a resistance. I got it. I can carry it. It don't matter, right? I'm built for this. Yes, sir. Right? So I can be and even have everything that God intended for me is the reason why we need to get rid of it. So we're not self-sabotaging our future and the future of our kids because of the bags we're carrying, the weight that we have. 1 Peter 5, 6, and 7 says, therefore humble yourselves under the mighty hand of God. The Message Bible says, don't put on airs, that he may exalt you in due time. 7 says, casting all your cares upon him, for he cares for you. Then it goes on to talk about being sober. And I was like, being sober? You know, in my mind, I'm like, we drunk? But sober means to have self-control. That's one of those fruits of the Spirit, right? And to be vigilant, which means to be watchful because the devil is coming for you. Y'all sit here and you holding your weight and you just walking around like ain't nothing going on and the devil's watching you too, right? So we want to be sober and have that self-control. And this is how we do it to get rid of the baggage. As a mother, we're constantly having to make decisions, navigating life. We got the weight of our family, our life, children, work, whatever demands you may have. As we're trying to get rid of this weight, the second thing to do is pray and seek wise counsel. Somebody say, pray and seek help. Proverbs 11:14 says, where there is no counsel, the people fall. But in the multitude of counselors, there is safety. Wonder why they said safety. Why didn't they say there is help? Right? So when you're out there trying to do it all alone, could it be a chance that you ain't safe? As soon as stuff go on, you ain't going to church. When there really may be safety in the house, you got to open up your mouth and talk. And in that, you'll find and have the safety. Nowhere in this passage does it say the mother prayed. I don't know. But I have to believe as a Christian and someone having a relationship with God, we must pray and seek wise counsel. Pray and seek wise counsel. Both are equally important. We're around here with our baggage, knowing we need help, knowing just a little more wisdom or knowledge could actually change the situation we're in. But we're too afraid to ask. We won't even say anything, and you don't know that the very person you're beside may be the person to answer your questions, your problems, your fears, your distractions, all of it. Seeking counsel just to get another perspective or thought could make the difference. We are the products, whether good or bad, of what our mothers and fathers did or did not do. We're a product of their decisions. Our children are a product of ours. And we have now become the parent still dealing with the issues from our parents. Sometimes we are now the parent still dealing with our parents' setbacks. The stuff that they carried in their invisible suitcase, and now it's on us. We don't even know it. Sometimes the stuff they carried, and now it's weighing on us because they didn't get rid of it. Sometimes we are now the parent dealing with our parents' lack of knowledge or lack of skill that they didn't have, and because they didn't have it, they couldn't give it to us. And now we're left to deal with that and make decisions about our current lives and situations. Somebody say, get rid of the weight. Pray, seek help. Pray and seek. Thank you. When you're seeking wise counsel, you must be honest. First, you got to be honest with yourself, and then be honest with whomever you're seeking help from. Be willing to hear the hard things. Be willing to do some reflecting of yourself, your life, your actions, your decisions, and even your current place in life. The Bible says to examine yourself to know if you are in the faith. Prayer and wise counsel will always help us with our life and our decisions we have to make. The woman in the story was going back and forth with her roommate, friend, whatever you want to call her, knowing good and well the living baby was hers and the baby she woke up with was not. The Bible says she examined the baby. She knew which one was hers, right? If 5 kids can walk in, you can point yours out. I believe with Sanaya's Afro puff, if there was 4 kids with an Afro puff, I'd be like, there goes Sanaya, right? If somebody were to come up to me and say, oh, yeah, that kid was mocking you, I'd say, oh, yeah, that was David, right? We know our kids. We examine our kids from the day that they're born. So she knew. She woke up. Nah, this ain't my baby. My baby got hair like this, got a mark right there. You know. Why? Because as a mother, they sleeping and we looking at them, making sure they breathing, right? Meanwhile, I'm looking at, oh, that pinky toe go up like that? Like, why his ears look like that, right? Again, I don't know if she prayed, but even people who may not come to church every Sunday, who may not have the relationship that we have, when the rubber meets the road and they need help, even they can say, oh, God. Even they know how to cry out. They know that there's somebody higher than him, higher than them. So pray and seek help. We were on Thrive one night, and Tiff had made this quote. I don't even remember what we were talking about. And I may not even have it right, but it was so good. And the quote was, "My children would not get wet because of my storm." Ain't that good? My children will not get wet because of my storm. The stuff I'm dealing with right now, it ain't going to go on them. The stuff that I got to handle, the decisions I have to make, it's not going to fall on them. My children will not get wet because of my storm. Oh, it was, I'm like, just sit with that stuff. So some of the stuff that you're dealing with now came because your parents, they let the storm that they were in trickle down, right? My dad, his storm, it trickled down. And I was left to do the work. Now I could tell y'all all the stuff, and it ain't even, gut punching like it was initially, right? But it took some years. And I also had to be honest with myself to realize some of the things that I'm doing, and I think they're right, they ain't. Right? I did it because of my situation. I prayed and seek help. I got rid of some of that baggage. And surprisingly enough, I'm helping people every day deal with the same stuff. So, my last point is when we look at this story and we think about all the decisions we have to make, we want to lead with compassion. The Bible says this mother yearned with compassion and said, "Oh Lord, give her the child. By no means kill the baby." One, can you imagine you going back and forth with this lady? She's saying it's her baby. You know it's your baby. And at the end of the day, you're saying, just give it a child. Why? Because I know he's going to be better off if he's alive than dead, even if I'm not the one to raise him. Just give it a baby. Leading with compassion. Compassion is recognizing that a person is suffering, but then doing something about it. That suffering could be pain, distress, agony, hardship, whatever. This woman was a prostitute. They were considered like the lowest of the low. I don't know how you found yourself in your current situation, but nonetheless, it's where she was. It was the hand that she was dealt, and despite that, she still had compassion. Don't let your current circumstance cause you to have a hard heart and cause you to not have compassion for others. That's why we got to get rid of the weight, y'all. In this story, the compassion was for her child. But I also have to believe she had just a little bit for that lady, even if she was trifling, even if she knew that she was wrong, even if she was walking around with all the weight and all the bags and she couldn't find it in her heart to just say, "I killed my baby." Right? So I believe that woman still had just a little compassion. Solomon was almost like, "I ain't got time for this. Y'all want to keep going back and forth? We could just cut it in half." It was not his intention. He wasn't going to do it. So I also wonder, had she not said anything, what would Solomon really have done? Right? The mom, regardless of what Solomon thought of her, no matter the lies the other woman was telling, the tricks she was playing, she had made up in her mind to stop with all the mess and make a decision. Her decision may have meant I would no longer have my child. I would lose my child. She killed her baby, and now she's going to get mine. But at least he'll be alive. At least he'll have a chance at life, and it's better than being killed. So some of us who may find that our children are in jail, at least they're alive. They still got another chance. As mothers who are constantly making decisions about ourselves, about our children, despite our past, our history, our current situations, get rid of the weight. Look at that, just tanglement. Get rid of the weight. Pray and seek help, and lead with compassion. You'll end up being a better you for them. Thank you.